right, guys. So I'm here with a good friend of mine, Samuel, who is actually one of my business partners from a community that we have in the Latin Hispanic community called Real Estate Wholesaling. So I wanted you we're gonna just talk about real estate and business. So welcome,
Yeah.
Samuel.
Thanks.
How you doing?
Doing great. Thanks for having me. It's
Hey.
great to be here.
Yeah, well, we were just having a conversation. I thought we'd put it on video, right? A lot of people get stuck with, I'm trying to find my first deal. How do I find my first deal? What do I need to be doing? And we were just talking about how, I got started and how, we've had some conversations with people that just got started this year and are
Yep.
already having success, right?
Yeah, for sure. So we just bought this property from this wholesaler. She is a older gal. I obviously didn't ask her age. In her 60s, she's looking to retire, and she got started wholesaling in January.
Wow.
So we are recording towards the beginning of March. She has brought us her first 2 wholesaling deals. If you know a little bit about wholesaling, you know it takes about 90 days to start seeing results usually, right?
Right.
So for her to have closed 2 deals already in the first 2 months of the year, huge. Not knowing a lot, but taking massive action. And when I say massive action, she is I call her a honey badger. You know what a honey badger is? Honey badgers are not scared. They eat snakes,
Right.
They go after it. And when I was hearing her, I was like, she's a honey badger.
Right.
She knocks on pre-foreclosures, and she was telling us, I don't care if people shut the door on me. I'm not scared. I knock on every door. I carry a gun just in case, but I'm not scared. I go door knocking. She still has her full-time job. She door knocks on the weekends, but just that massive action and that honey badger mentality has gotten her 2 deals. And she was telling us, I think I'm just going to retire already, because if I want to keep this rolling, which she will, if she keeps going, if she keeps doing it, she will. I can just, instead of waiting to retire, I can just retire, do this. And by the way, she told us, I love it. I love doing it. Which a lot of people would say, man, it's so scary, knocking on doors, I'm embarrassed, I don't want to do it. She says, I feel alive. I feel that this is my way of helping people. I feel fulfilled.
Yeah.
I love it. And she's making a lot of money doing it. So, such a cool story. She can do it. Everyone can do it.
No, that's great that you share that story, and I think that's, I wanted to bring to the community because I think it's a powerful story to let you know that it doesn't matter where you come from, it doesn't matter your age, it doesn't matter where you're at. If you really want to make it happen, you're going to make it happen.
Yeah.
Or you're going to make excuses, right? And for a lot of us, it's very easy to just make excuses to say, you know what, I don't have the knowledge, I don't have the money, I don't have the time. But you can see somebody in their 60s that has a full-time job that's still going out and getting deals and making it happen. And I've heard tons of stories from also 17-year-old kids that have made hundreds of thousands of dollars in real estate.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter how young you are. You can't use that as an excuse. It doesn't matter
how old
you are.
Yeah.
You can't make that as an excuse. It's just about making it happen.
Right.
And, I wanted to share that with, the community and everyone, because that's how I got started, right? I started door knocking, right? When I was brand new, something that I learned very quickly is whatever people hate doing and are not willing to do, that creates the most opportunity,
Right. Because there's less competition.
There's less competition,
right,
yeah. I mean, there's a lot of people that want to choose the easy route that are always like, hey, I want to spend $3,000, $5,000 on mailers, right? Because it's easy for just to send a mail. You don't have to cold call. You're just waiting for people to call you, right? But there's so much competition there, right?
Yeah.
Same thing with cold calling, right? I mean, there's a little bit less because less people are willing to cold call, but there's even less door knocking. So when I first started, that's exactly what I did. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. And by the way, she was sharing with us how she was doing it with her daughter. Wow. So it's just not her. She's doing it with her daughter. So they team up and they both take time out of their week. The daughter, it's a full-time mom, you know.
Yeah.
And she has the opportunity to go out on the weekends, sometimes take their children, they go door knocking, they make a lot of money. And by the way, she did tell us, you know, I was trying to learn, I was so hungry, I paid $20,000 for it, to be part of a membership where they were going to give me some tutoring, some help. I can hardly get a text back from them. So I said, I just got to start doing something. Because if I wait until I feel that I know everything, I'm just never going to get started. So she says it was not worth it. What worked for me was just doing it. You know,
Right.
Education, it's great. It's only going to get you to a certain point. It's not going to take you to the success that you're looking for.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, that's right on to, you know, the advice that I give people. My advice for people that want to get started in real estate is you don't need to spend any money on mentorships or training. When you're first getting started, I think there's enough information in today's society. There's enough information through YouTube, through so many Facebook groups, through, you know, just online presence for you to get your first few deals, right? Because it's not, you know, it doesn't take a lot to get your first few deals, just like her, right? She went out and paid for a mentorship when realizing that she didn't need that, right? And there's definitely times and levels that it may be helpful to maybe get to that next level, and masterminds and all that, they're great. But when you're first getting started, there's enough information for you to go out there and get your first deal. And that's exactly what I did, right? I was going to the meetups where I got free information. I was listening to podcasts. I was, you know, tuning into YouTube, wherever I can find information, because there's information on, you know, how to write up a contract. It's very simple, right? Do I need to have a license? You typically don't need to have a license. Of course, there's a few states where are being a little bit more regulated, but typically, you know, all the information that you need is at your disposal. You can even go to a title company, because title companies, how do they make money? By closing deals. So they want to help you, right? So they may even provide free classes for you. They might provide trainings, contracts, so many things that, you know, they're available for the average person. So I mean, I know that, I mean, we can share so many stories of when, you know, I was door knocking, and my very first flip, you know, the property that I flipped, when I kind of wasn't even ready, but I just was excited and I got my first flip, and I made some mistakes along that flip, but the margins were so high that I could afford to make so many mistakes. I got it from door knocking. And you know what the crazy story about that door knocking? Just like a lot of us, that day, I didn't feel like doing it. You know? And I had a list of like, okay, there's 15 people that I'm going to go door knock. And I kid you not, I had the list, and for whatever reason, I don't know what it was, for whatever reason, out of the 10 or 15 people on that list, I said, you know what, I'm just going to do one, right? There's a really powerful book called One More, right? I said, I'm just going to do one. I didn't feel like doing anything, but I said, you know what, I felt bad going home and not even doing one. So I'm like, you know what, let me just do one. Lo and behold, I go and door knock that one house that happens to be somebody, you know, in retirement age that was going through an immense amount of stress. His mom, it was his mom's house. He was raised at the house. He lived there for so many years. He was taking care of mom. She passed away, and now the bank was going to take her house. And the exact words were, no, like, I don't want anything to do with this. I'm just going to give it to the bank. They already are taking it. And I started
defeated already.
He was already defeated. And I said, sir, please let me help you. I know you're going through a bad situation. If you allow me, let's have a conversation. Let's see how I can help, because I think we can put some money in your pocket, help you with the transition. And it was incredible, because just like the lady said, it felt so good to help somebody. And towards the end, because there's a lot of things that I ended up having to do, because there actually was one of my first deals where there was a lot of deceased siblings. It was actually kind of weird, because even the title company was looking at me weird and was saying like, okay, you're telling me that every single kid had passed away except for him. And I was like, yeah. And they asked me for so many death certificates. And towards the end, I remember when he closed, he was beyond grateful, more than, you know, obviously the money, but he was grateful for helping him through a very dark time in his life, where it was very emotional for him. And I kind of gave him, you know, a little bit of hope. Right?
Yeah, for sure. And it's always worse in your mind. than
Yeah.
it actually is.
Yeah.
It's always worse. Like I remember when I first started cold calling, for some reason my first cold call ever, like the first time I grabbed the phone, I dialed a number, I got cussed out and I said, man, this is the worst. Like this is not for me. And I stopped doing it for a couple of months. Fast forward 4 years later, I've been doing cold calling. I've never had any other person cuss me out like my first call ever. Super weird. But here's the thing. You are scared of picking up the phone. You're scared of going and knocking on doors because what are they going to say? What are they going to do? Man, it's always worse in your mind.
Yeah.
The worst case scenario that you have in your mind is a very, very, very small percentage or possibility that it's actually going to happen. Almost, I'm not going to say non-existent because we live in the real world, but it almost never happened. It hasn't happened to me again. I've been doing this for over 4 years. So if you're afraid of, you're one of those people that you picture in your head the worst case scenario and that's why you don't start, you got to get over that because it's not going to happen. You got to take the first step and you're going to see that it's way better. And like our friend, she says, I feel alive.
Yeah.
I'm 60 something years old. I've worked all my life in a W-2 job. I'm willing to let it go. This is what really fulfills me. I'm feeling alive. And I think that, man, what a great
story.
What a great place to be in your life, feeling alive. So when some people say, this is not for everyone, I don't know, man. I think everyone wants to feel good about themselves. Everyone wants to feel like they're doing something good. Real estate investing, it's a good place. You help a lot of people in your dealings.
Yeah, and the crazy thing is that there's so many situations and scenarios that you would never expect until you actually start going through those reps and you start going through those calls and those doors, that people are in very distressed, unfortunate situations that sometimes it takes one of us to really help them say, hey, we got to get you some help.
Yeah.
I remember going to a house where the gentleman didn't have any running water, and he literally used to take showers with gallons of water, right? I'm not talking about for a few days. I'm talking about for weeks and possibly years.
Yeah.
No HVAC. I mean, these people need to be in a better situation, and 9 times out of 10, they end up being in a better situation than they were,
Yeah.
And like you said, I mean, it's the fear, I mean, it's very, I have that saying. I tell people it's always worse in your mind than it is in reality. And it's so true. When I was door knocking, never once did I have a really bad experience where I'm like, oh my gosh, that was the worst. That was so horrible. You have to understand that it's just, we're all very similar. We put on our pants the same way. We put on our shirt the same way. Mm-hmm. We all go through situations, and they're in unfortunate situation. Anything can happen, right? I mean, we can be driving down the road and unfortunately there's car accidents, right? I mean, there's illnesses, there's medical things, there's so many things. I mean, there's COVID. Nobody saw COVID coming. Yeah. And there's so many people that are out of business and out of their job, right? And things like that will always happen. And we just have to understand that, these people are just real. They're needing help. And, what I like about the pre-foreclosure is that, something's going to happen or the bank is going to take it, right? Yeah. And if we don't go out there and help them, the bank is going to take it, and they may run into somebody because, there's all kinds of people. There may be an investor that has no remorse, that goes in there and just throws everything out. And it's always just better when we can help them transition, plan things out, give them time. Sometimes even help them with movers,
save their credit.
Save their credit, There's just so many things. So, I just wanted to share with you guys that if I was to get started, that's exactly what I did, right? I would go out and start door knocking. And I remember one of the properties that I remember most vividly is, if you guys are in North Texas, you guys know where Plano is. This property was in Plano. I had a very great conversation with the homeowner, and I was still new at that time. I didn't have enough confidence to where when I was, trying to make an offer, I really didn't know that well, the numbers. But I built a lot of rapport to where they said, you know what, we have other investors coming. Why don't you come on Saturday? And I just, for whatever reason, was just getting started. I needed just something more, a little bit more confidence to push them over the edge and help them sign the contract, which I didn't. And actually, what happened was, they said, we're going to make a decision on Monday. But they were also telling me that right after I was leaving, there was another investor. So sure
Right,
enough,
yeah.
I left. You know what happened?
Yeah,
I
that
left.
guy-
The investor
that guy
came
grabbed
in.
it.
It was actually a lady came in, and I went to Starbucks and I said, you know what? It wasn't sitting right with me. I'm like, they're gonna sign a contract.
Yeah.
They're not waiting till Monday, right? And sure enough, they actually ended up signing a contract, and it was kind of a big L for me. It was a loss because I'm like, I was already like, man, this is a great deal. I'm gonna get this property under contract. And I ended up learning so much more from kind of that deal that I said, you know what? I'm going to get better negotiating. I'm going to read more books. I'm going to listen to more. And I can see that there was opportunities out there,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And it's encouraging to know that, you know what? It's just a matter of time. And even when you're new, you may go out there just like I did. And because you're so new and you don't have that much confidence, you may go out there for 10 or 20 properties and it takes 30 to get your first one, or it takes 40. You just got to go through the numbers, right? The law of averages.
Yeah, it's a numbers game. It's a numbers game. And every time you get rejected, it's just a step closer to the one where you're going to find the deal. So every rejection, it's a stepping stone. It's a step that you got to take. So the quicker you take them and the better you get at taking them, the quicker you're going to get to the actual deal. So you know, getting rejected, it's part of the game. It's what takes you to win. So don't be afraid of it. Go for it. There's almost, you have nothing to lose.
Yeah.
What are you going to lose?
Yeah.
Someone's saying no, being rude to you. You kind of just like, you know, rub it off and move on with your day.
Yeah, no,
That's it.
exactly.
Yeah.
But also, I mean, you got to think about it. You know, what can happen? Number one, just like she feels so alive by helping somebody, you can help somebody, right? And number two, you could do really well, right? You can start making $5, $10, $15, $20,000, $30,000 by going out and getting these deals. And the other thing I want to talk about is on the flip side, sometimes it's hard to believe that sometimes it could be so easy.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've run into those situations where you're like, wait a minute. It almost feels like something's going to get thrown off because it's like they literally were waiting for you to call them or talk to them.
Yeah.
And they're ready to go. Like,
yeah. I remember one of our deals. I went over and I was like planning already in my head, how am I going to negotiate with her, trying to break down the deal so she could see that it was fair. And I just got there and I told her, how much do you want? It was like, how much do you offer? I was planning on giving her 90, but I was like 60. And she was like, okay. I was like, wait, what? You know, way worse in my head than it actually was. These people, like, if you do your work, you're going to find the right people that are in the right time. You get there just at the exact moment where you need it to be. But you got to build your luck. You don't get there just sitting in your couch, you know. You got to build out your luck. But if you do the work, you are going to find those people that the deal just happens. It's perfect, and you kind of just left wondering, like, man, like, is it really that easy to make 20 grand? You know, what was I doing with my life before?
I know it's just crazy because you know I always tell these people too. One of the things I always have, right? It's timing, not talent.
Yeah.
Right. And what I mean by that is that yes, somebody, for example, could be going through foreclosure and they can literally get 50 calls. I want to buy your house. I want to buy your house. I want to buy your house. Right. And a lot of people in that situation, obviously you're going to learn if you start going through that route and you want to focus on pre-foreclosures, you're going to understand that a lot of these people, they're just kind of personalities, not all of them, but sometimes they just make bad decisions and they procrastinate and they wait until the very, very end. I mean, there's situations where they're like, oh no, this isn't happening. They try to ignore, like it's not there. They're not going to take my house. And sometimes 2 or 3 days before the auction, they start calling you like, yes, I want to sell. But it's just sometimes it's timing. You know, I've been in situations where it wasn't like, you know, one that comes to mind, it wasn't even a pre-foreclosure. It was just setting a campaign. You know I recorded a video of kind of the platforms that we use. And in this particular example, I was using batch leads, right? And all I did was I just focused on a list of, you know, they call it tired landlords, but just basically landlords that have had their property for like more than 5 years, right?
Yeah.
And I basically sent a campaign like, hey, would you be looking to sell your house? And the person was just kind of like, you know, appalled, like, wait a minute, like, how did you just know that my tenant just moved out, and I was actually just thinking about selling, right?
Yeah, like
so
who told you?
yeah, like so, and of course, I mean, I didn't know. It just happened to be my luck that I had just caught him at the right time.
Yeah.
So I set the appointment up, and I showed up, and he was still kind of like, wait a minute, like within 24 hours, you showed up at my house, and then you make me an offer that is fair for me. We agree on it, and you want to buy it, and it took him a little bit to be like,
yeah, how are you not scamming me?
yeah, like this is crazy. Like, of course, everything was just negative. Like, this has to be a scam. There's no possible way.
Too good to be true.
And we ended up buying our house. And there's been plenty of situations like that. So just like you guys say, like, hey, sometimes it's a little challenging. Sometimes, it takes a lot. There's other times that you may have luck that your first few phone calls, you may get somebody that's ready to go. You may door knock, and your first 2 or 3 people that are like, yeah, I'm ready to sell. I just want to get out. I need some moving expenses, and I want to get out.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, you just got to go out there and just take action. And that's the powerful thing is, no matter if you spend $20,000 on a mentorship or some program like she did, she has got so much more results by just going out there and taking action and probably getting help and guidance from working with you and Marlon on, buying properties from her. Comping out properties.
Right, for sure. And she says, when I'm done from work, I go home and I can't, door knock when I'm out of work because it's getting dark, so it's not, really a good idea. But I educate myself. When I get home, I educate myself. And as you mentioned, YouTube University, it's a great place to start if you want to start. Yeah. But as long as you're always taking the steps necessary to get to where you want to be, you're going to get there. You know, you're going to get there. The success is unavoidable if you just keep doing what you're supposed to be doing, which is taking action. Yeah. And it's going to take you there.
Yeah, I mean, and it's not, and it's not something that like, I know one of the biggest excuses for everybody, right, is I don't have time, right? It's, not lack of time. It's just time management, priority management, right? And it doesn't take, 5 hours a day. Like, if you really laser focused, it can literally be something as simple as 30 minutes to an hour, right, a day. Like 1 hour of focused calling, 1 hour of focused door knocking, and you've door knocked 3 or 4 houses or 5 houses in your area, and you do that repeatedly every single day. It's that consistency, right? Yeah. Jim Rohn talks about it, right? It's not about eating 7 apples on Sunday. It's about eating an apple a day, right? Yeah. So it's the same thing with calls. It's not about trying to make 100 calls one day. It's about consistently saying, what, no matter what, I'm just going to make 10 calls, or I'm just going to door knock 10 people this week. Just staying consistent, you're going to get results. Yeah, for sure. So absolutely. The main thing is that the main thing remains the main thing. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I mean, in this business, if you're not talking to sellers about potentially selling the house or potential buyers from a property you have under contract or that want to buy it or somebody that wants to invest with you, all that other stuff doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter your business card. It doesn't really matter what t-shirt you have on. It doesn't matter what car you drive. Even then, even that's a limiting belief, right? Like, man, I'm going to pull up in my car that I hope it starts. These people aren't going to sell me their property. Yeah. That's just also too a limiting belief, right? Sure, like, it doesn't matter, right? Yeah. It doesn't matter what car you drive. It doesn't matter, what your bank account looks like right now. But if you just take action and you're a problem solver, that's one thing that you got to understand with our real estate business is the better you get at solving people's problems, the more money you're going to make. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Right? Yeah. Like, I mean, that's what we do, right? Yeah. We solve people's problems. Yeah, and not be afraid of it. Yeah. You gotta be able to face problems and deal with them, and solving a problem means helping someone. For some reason, the world is designed that when you help someone, you make money. Yeah. Yeah, simple, yeah. And, we'll end this on, want to share, another story. I know you were talking about somebody that you just met that just got started in their 60s, just got started in January, took action, and is already closing their first few deals. Yeah. I know I was telling you about, if you guys follow my social media and see, one of the houses that we just bought in South Dallas that, was a 2-week project from start to finish as far as what it needs, right? It just needed paint, carpet, and a couple of fixtures, and it was pretty much ready to go. And I actually bought this property from her, a wholesaler, and she was sharing her story with me, right? She has a team where she and her team door knock she was telling me that I believe from December up until now, they've closed about 11 to 12 properties just from door knocking pre-foreclosures, and they got like 3 or 4 more under contract.
Nice.
Right? It's about willing to do what others people aren't willing to do.
Yep.
You're going to have success. So
Yeah.
I hope that encourages you guys. Thank you guys for, allowing us to, share this video, share that content, share those stories. I just thought it was a good idea because we were having this conversation off camera, and I said, you know what? Why don't we talk about it on video? I think it can help somebody out.
Yeah, for sure.
And, as you guys know, some of the platforms that I use, they're going to be in the description. I use Batch. I use REI Sift. And, go ahead and put a comment, right? Have you started door knocking? What is your experience? Or have you started, investing in real estate? Or what other information, what other content would you like, right? And of course, if you're not already a subscriber, make sure you subscribe. Make sure you hit the thumbs. And if you didn't like it, make sure you hit the thumbs down. It doesn't matter. Just, put whatever you like. I hope this helps you. And until then, we'll catch you guys on the next video. Do you have any other, any comments for anybody that's getting started?
Just go get it.
Just go get it. Simple enough. Go
It's
get
gonna
it.
happen.
All right. We'll see you guys.
All right.